Okay, so the new runes are out with a whole bunch of changes. Let's analyze what got weaker and what got stronger. The most important thing is the removal of magic resist runes. Enemies lost 12 to 27 magic resist from runes, while we only lost 7.8 magic pen from our runes. That actually is a big buff to any AP damage. Even tanks with magic damage do more now. On top of this, magic pen got buffed and sword shoes are very strong now. Everybody gained armor except for mages. This means lethality really hurts mages now, but mages do more damage to everyone. Here's how much damage our magic pen options give us now. All you need to know is flat pen from Source and Liandry's is crazy strong, dealing true damage to anyone who doesn't build magic resist, and Void Staff cuts through tanks better than before. Wit's End will also shred 25 out of 30 magic resist, doing way more damage than before. Teemo received an 8 attack damage buff and all champions gained a +5 damage to minions buff, so last hitting should be much easier now. Moving on to the 5 new trees, what you need to know is sorcery gives a lot of stats. 25 ability power at level 1 is a lot. That's 544 gold worth of ability power. Precision will be our on-hit path for attack speed, and domination doesn't fit Teemo too well because the cooldowns are too long. This means the new Thunderlords called Electrocute is not as good for Teemo as the old Thunderlords was. Here we can see the issue with the new Electrocute. The cooldown is twice as long at all stages, which lowers its DPS by a lot. Electrocute is now strictly for one-shot assassin type builds, which doesn't fit Teemo that well. The best build for burst on Teemo would be Gunblade into Source into Liandry's. But I don't think it's very effective because one magic resist item counters your burst completely, and then you have very low sustained damage. Glacial Augment had me really excited, but after testing it a few games, it was a big disappointment. Enemies kept escaping due to the downtime, or they would turn and simply kill me because I had no defense like the 700 health Frozen Mallet offers. Press the Attack, also known as PTA, also had me excited. I thought it would be too strong, but after testing it, it was weaker than Lethal Tempo for on hit. 12% damage is okay. By comparison, Sword Shoes gives 12% damage versus no MR targets. Lord Dominic's gives 80 carries 25% damage versus tanks, and Infinity Edge buffs auto attacks by 30%. PTA would be too strong if the damage was higher because it buffs allies damage as well. This makes it ideal for team fights where multiple people attack one enemy, but in terms of 1v1 duels in the top lane there are better options. Bot lane is ideal for PTA because it is often 2v2 and 3v2 with ganks. Arcane Comet only does 50% more damage than Aery, but has a 20-second cooldown in lane phase, and can also miss, which happens more often in lane before you have the slow from mushrooms. If we compare all the damage keystones and their values per proc, we see Electrocute has the highest base damage by far. The problem is the huge cooldown. Press the Attack is much lower than Electrocute and really hard to proc in lane because you need to get 3 auto attacks off and the Q doesn't count towards that. Dark Harvest got nerfed so many times already. Aery is the lowest damage per proc, but she has no cooldown and can be procced many times. Aery ends up doing more damage in lane because she has no cooldown and can be procced twice if you stay close enough to pick her up when she is returning. Okay, so here's the thing with Aery. She attacks the target for 2 seconds, and then she has to walk back to you. If you're still in range and there's still damage being applied to the target, she'll return for second hit. This only happens if you're relatively close though. So for example, if I attack here, and I move a little further back, she's not going to get that second proc off. So if the enemy backs off in lane, it's not going to do a second hit. So for mushrooms, it's almost always only going to be 1 hit. If we go into melee range and start attacking at 230, for example, and we have it 6 procs so far, we're going to see how many we get off. We'll do it for 10 seconds and count. So we started at 6, and we'll see what we're at when it hits 240 in the top right corner. So started at 6, ended at 11, although that last one is a little bit over, so almost 5 procs in melee range over 10 seconds. So we'll start at 3 minutes this time at max range and see how many procs we can get off at max range. And it's going to come out to be 3. So 1 proc, 2 procs, and here comes the third one, 3 procs. So the closer you are, the more damage Aery does, because she has to travel back to you. So that's what lowers her DPS. The next issue is if you roam somewhere and drop a mushroom, and somebody steps on it, let's say you roam bot and make a play bottom, and you step on the mushroom. Let's put a dummy down here. and I put a mushroom down. And then I start attacking. Aery's doing no damage because she has to come back to me. So she's all the way up there. She stepped on that mushroom, and she has to come all the way back before I'm able to put out any damage. So see there, she's attacking again. So let's say I roamed bottom, and we had a fight, and I left the mushroom there. And an enemy steps on that. And I come back over here. Look how long it takes her to get back top lane. So I don't think Aery's OP. She's definitely good and better than Comet, but it's not super OP just because of this. You lose a lot of damage if you're at range, and Teemo's often fighting at max range and kiting. So it's not as OP as everybody makes it seem. I think Comet needs to get buffed. It's too unreliable in the damage. The risk versus reward isn't good enough. You have a high chance of missing, you have a cooldown, and even when it does hit, it's only slightly better than Aery. I think that's the issue right now. Another little thing with Aery is she could reveal your location. I don't think this will ever change any outcome in a live game, but she does do it. Thanks to Zaneki for taking the time to test this with me. As you can see, I was able to follow Aery to where he was hiding, revealing his location. Alright, I will be linking this spreadsheet in the video description. I have been keeping track of all my games testing Comet and Aery. So far my sample has 5 games of Comet and 7 of Aery. On average, I'm doing 20% more damage of Aery, and games are lasting 28 minutes. So now that we have concluded that Aery is better than Comet and sorcery gives the most stats of any tree, which makes Teemo's early game even stronger, there's one small detail we need to address regarding starting items. Alright, for starting items, when you're trying to get your base stats, it gives you the stat which is listed first. So here it says 15 attack damage or 25 ability power. Since it says attack damage first, if you don't build either AD or AP, you will gain attack damage. So here, for example, I have no AD or AP in my items, so I have a Doran's Shield start. In this case, I gain 0 ability power. So we can see I have 0 ability power. But if I were to start, all of a sudden I have 41 ability power. I got 15 from here, my Dark Seal, and now that you've built ability power, you gain the bonus 25 ability power, which is huge. On a Q early game, it's gonna chunk them really hard. So anytime you're going AP, it's kind of not viable to start Doran's Shield because of that, because you're not gonna gain any bonus ability power from it. So that kind of sucks. Here are the 2 pages I would recommend, an on-hit page of Tempo and an AP page of Aery. Let's review why we should pick these specific runes, starting with the AP Aery page. We take the ultimate hat because any AP build with Liandry's makes great use of mushrooms. Mana flow band isn't necessary and doesn't give back that much mana. It barely gives back more than the old meditation, which was 15% missing mana per minute. The new mana flow band gives 8% missing mana per minute. Mana flow band is only slightly better because of the spell refund, which will often be a 75 mana mushroom. As you can see, a Doran's Ring gives back just as much mana as Mana Band, so it's simply better to take Ultimate Hat and solve any mana issues with a Doran's Ring. Mana Band is great on champs with spells that cost a lot and or big mana pools, and Nivea for example. Shrooms only cost 75 mana and Teemo has a tiny mana pool. The other option is Nullifying Orb. However, the shield is pretty small. Level 1 it absorbs 40 magic damage. That's only worth 100 gold. And at level 18 it's 300 gold. A Ruby Crystal gives 150 health, which is always there, has no cooldown, and works against physical damage too. Next, we choose Celerity because the other 2 options are not worth it. Transcendence only gives 10% CDR at level 10. It takes 15 minutes to reach level 10 in a solo lane, and games are ending a lot faster in less than 30 minutes now. After 15 minutes, you gain 10% cooldown reduction, which is only worth 260 gold. Even if we build 40% CDR to convert bonus stats, it's only worth 430 gold. By the time we overcap on CDR, which would be an inefficient build anyways, the game would almost be done and 20 ability power would be irrelevant by this point. Absolute Focus gives a ton of stats while we're above 70% health. This is good for poke mages like Xerath and perhaps a Shroom build. However, trading and team fighting become a lot weaker as soon as you take damage since you lose all your stats. Meanwhile, Celerity can never lose its stats and becomes stronger when you enter combat and activate Teemo's move speed, giving him even more stats. Scorch is possibly one of the best runes right now. It does more damage than Aery, and it isn't even a keystone. Scorch alone can poke opponents out of lane, and it only scales with Magic Pen. This makes it even stronger on champs that rush Magic Pen like Liandry's and Sorshoes. Water Walking gives a crazy amount of stats if you're in the river. This is best for junglers who can constantly roam the river and contest Scuttle, Dragons, Rift Herald, and Barons. This would be crazy good on Hecarim jungle, however it's useless for laning. Gathering Storm gives an absurd amount of stats into the late game. However, games are much shorter now, lasting on average 30 minutes. Additionally, Gathering Storm is only good on AD carries who can multiply the AD with their crazy scaling. AP champs benefit way more from Magic Pen and added effects such as Liandry's, Luden's, and Lichbane, for example, whereas AD champs scale much better. A Teemo Shroom uses 50% of AP. A Draven Axe with an Infinity Edge crits for 325% of AD, and he can auto-attack probably twice per second. For subtrees, we have 3 options. Precision is the best in most situations. Coup de Grace is really strong, giving 10% damage to low enemies. This leads to many kills. Opponents who used to get out with low health now just bleed to death from Teemo's poisons. As we can see, Triumph is really snowbally. It has healed me for 2700 health. Comparing this to potions that heal for 150 and cost 50 gold, we get a value of 900 gold. Additionally, it cashed in 725 gold from all the kills and assists. That's 1600 gold. Next, we have the Domination subtree. We take this one for hard lanes such as Pantheon and Swain to make use of the sustained Taste of Blood offers. Ravenous Hunter Spell Vamp is weak early and does not work on Teemo's poison, so we take Zombie Ward to keep us safe with Vision instead. As you can see, Ravenous Hunter needs to scale up and does not give relevant sustain for hard matchups. Inspiration allows us to save a lot of gold and purchase big items sooner. The free boots are worth 470 gold in total, 300 for the boots, 50 off the upgrade, and the bonus move speed is worth 120 gold. We also get 4 potions to sustain through the lane phase, which also increase our mana pool by 160, which has a value of 224 gold. This is the ideal subtree for a Rageblade rush to be able to afford that expensive item with less risk by reducing costs elsewhere. As for the on-hit tempo page, it's pretty self-explanatory. Triumph is the best option here. We don't need mana for an on-hit build, and Overheal does nothing for us. Alacrity, because it's an on-hit build and we want attack speed. Coup de Grace is still the best option here. Cutdown won't work well because we will have health from Frozen Mallet, and Last Stand requires us to be below 60% health to do more damage. We have 3 really good builds right now. Standard AP, which has great Shroom damage but can still duel with Nashor's attack speed and survivability from Mallet and Banshees. Then a Shroom build, which works well versus squishy champs and tanks, but not so much against fighters and healers. Liandry's mushrooms lower tanks a lot, softening them up for your carries to finish off. If fighters like Aurelia or Olaf split push, you won't be able to stop them if you go Shroomo. They can dive you and kill you and then heal up, whereas versus a tank you can still safely wave clear without the risk of being bursted. Finally, the on-hit build, which is the best build for dueling 1v1. Thanks for watching. Give these builds a try and report back with a comment, and if these don't make you happy, then a picture of my daughter as Teemo better. We checking out our masterpiece, our Teemo? You like Teemo?
Teemo.
Do you know how to say mushroom?
Mushroom.
Can you say it again? Mushroom?
Mushroom.
Abby, look, we made Teemo. It's Teemo. Abby, do you know what Teemo's ultimate is? Is it a mushroom?
I have Teemo.
Is it a mushroom?
Teemo.
Yeah, you're on Teemo.